We had difficulties to find a place to stay because the owner of boarding and rental houses saw that we were coming from Papua. If a Papuan asked to rent the accommodation, they always came up with reasons. Sometimes they said, "I'm sorry, but all flats are currently occupied." Or they said, "Sorry, relatives have reserved the place." Or sometimes they claimed that the building needs to be renovated. Later we found out that the flats or houses were still empty and were not inhabited by their relatives. Sometimes the rentals were still new and not in need for renovation. After we found the real facts, I concluded that they had made up the reasons because they did not like indigenous Papuans. I witnessed racial discrimination in the legal case against Obi Kogoya, a Papuan student in Yogyakarta who was tortured by plainclothes police officers and racially discriminated by members of nationalist groups at the Papuan student dormitory in Jogja. Obi was actually the victim in this case. He was a victim of both torture and racial discrimination. But during the incident, Obi was arrested and later prosecuted as perpetrator. The discrimination already occurred in the early stage of the law enforcement process. Police processed Obi as a suspect, although he was a victim. In the later stages of the law enforcement process, Obi was treated like the perpetrator and finally found guilty. We reported Obi as a victim of violence and racial discrimination to the police. I was with Obi at that time and accompanied him to make a witness testimony. But as the court found Obi guilty, law enforcement institutions suddenly stopped the legal process we initiated against the perpetrators. One example is the use of treason charges against ethnic Papuans, even though suspects did not commit treasonous acts. If a Papuan suspect is criminalized with treason charges, he will immediately be prosecuted, as it occurred in the trial against 7 Papuan activists in East Kalimantan and other Papuan activists in Jakarta, Manokwari, Sorong, and also Fakfak. It is different if the police presses treason charges against non-Papuans. For instance, in the prosecution of Kiflan Sen, or the son of former President Sukarno in Jakarta. I don't know until what stage of law enforcement the case have been processed to today. There is no judge in Jakarta who ever sentenced both suspects or elaborated whether they had committed a treasonous act or not. These cases clearly show that ethnic Papuans are immediately prosecuted if they have been charged with treason, even though the circumstances do not meet the legal requirements for treason. But if treason charges are applied against non-Papuans, particularly if they are public figures or government officials, the cases are never processed. This is part of the racial discrimination in the use of treason charges in Indonesia.